So let's jump again into yet another Transformers Slag podcast Patreon listener question. If you want to be part of the Transformers Slag Patreon, help support the podcast, let us know we're doing a decent job here in this world of Transformers, giving you the daily news and letting us know what's going on in our crazy hobby. Patreon.com/Protoman, or check the pinned comment or the description below if you need a link to come join the Patreon. What does Patreon get you exactly? What do you get when you join the Patreon? Well, get your name in the end credit scroll at the end of every segment moving forward. Gives you access to the exclusive Transformers Slag podcast Discord, where a whole bunch of cool people hang out. We do some deep discussions about Transformers, and of course, a lot of the news breaks theirs first before everywhere else, including the segments. Also gives you access to links and deals to make your hobby cheaper so you don't have to spend full price on Transformers, as well as cool links to download all kinds of Transformer lore that I post once in a while. And of course, access to do the Patreon listener question. And we got a great Patreon listener question from our longtime patron, Stitch Productions, and they want to know the hard-hitting questions. Here we go. Hey, Proto, I got a question for you. What do you think is the future for the Weaponizer and Micromaster gimmicks after the War for Cybertron trilogy ends? I like to say that things changed after Earthrise. Hasbro doesn't have many characters they can make Weaponizers out of, and for Kingdom, they made a few new characters but got rid of the Micromaster price point. So my question is, do you think either of those have potential to come back after Kingdom? And if so, what characters can they do? Thanks, Proto, for reading. Stitch's production. Well, there's the rumors that I've been seeing online of what the potential next, I guess we'll call it trilogy, is going to be. And there's this big emphasis on legacy and revisiting old ideas. And I don't want to really talk too much about it because a lot of it isn't 100% confirmed. And I don't want to give it much credence until there's a little more, I guess, credibility to it from the sources. So I don't want to go too much into the rumors, but the general consensus officially was that the Micromaster price point didn't do well for Hasbro, both in Siege and in Earthrise. It actually didn't sell very well. And the same thing with the small price point of the Weaponizers. Both of those ended up in a lot of blowout and clearance places, whether it be Ollie's or JRC. There's a lot of different closeout places that usually get dead stocked from big box stuff like Walmart and Toys R Us and Target, and then they sell it for a fraction of the price. And no surprise, it was all Micromasters, and it was all Pretender shells prior to that with the Power of the Primes, and it was the Weaponizers. That small price point seems to be very unpopular with the larger collecting world. And that's why I think that after Earthrise, we ended up with the core class as our new standard small price point, because I think Hasbro was like, we need to do something that's still a smaller price point, but something that's more flag-bearing characters and something we could get away with. Now we have core class where even though we have Rat Trap and some of the oddball characters like Vertebrake, we still have Starscream, Megatron, Soundwave, Optimus Prime. Still characters that are big names that even a kid would want to get, even if it's the cheaper price point. So I think that they're going to want to probably continue with that, because when you really look at it, and don't get me wrong, I grew up on Micromasters. I love the Micromasters. It was practically what I was buying day one from Siege and Earthrise was Micromasters, because I have a personal nostalgic connection with those. But I think that even though I'm not the example. So a lot of other people, they were like, why would I get, these Micromaster characters I have no connection to when I could spend money on established characters in the deluxe price point, the Voyager and leader class price point. And I think that that's just what happened across the board. Same thing if we dial it all the way back to the Power of the Prime Pretender shells, or the decoy armors as they were advertised. A whole bunch of trademarks with the exception of really Bludgeon that a lot of people were not interested in. I mean, I was hyped about getting a Metal Hawk figure and Landmine and all of those, but a lot of people weren't, oddly enough. So it's kind of a different world. So when we look at even the Weaponizer, it's the same thing. And not a lot of characters that are Target Master buddies but not established and well-known characters with the greater audience as a whole. So what does that mean really for the future, for the next wave? Well, in terms of the idea, like let's say MicroMasters, small pocket-sized transforming robots, I will say this, they will come back, but I think that they're going to come back from when we get into that whole Armada era. When we start seeing Armada stuff pop up in the next trilogy, when that's going to be the flavor, we're going to see mini cons, aka MicroMasters that could attach and, do gimmicks and stuff. Which in a lot of ways, those modern MicroMasters kind of did the same thing too. They turned into guns, they were plug-inables, so they almost were already kind of going towards what mini cons are today. But I really see that that's probably going to be the next time we're going to see MicroMaster kind of size stuff. And even then, I think that because the small price point wasn't working out, we will see MicroMasters, we will see as them as minicons, and we will see weaponizers probably as minicons also, but they're going to be pack-ins. They're going to be something that'll be added on top of a deluxe. Or added as, like we see already weaponizers, sometimes they appear in a 3-pack with the Voyagers or something. So I could see it more being like that, where that price point, that cheap small price point might not exist, but the concept and idea will continue and live on under a different banner, under a different name, and will probably be more as a pack-in rather than a standalone product. Which in all honesty, I mean, if you're someone who really just wanted those specific MicroMasters or mini-cons or weaponizers, that'll suck if you have to buy a big expensive product to get it. But at the same time, if you're someone that's kind of passive about it, I think more people would prefer to get, like, let's say, a hot rod with a firebolt, or in the case of, the trademarks or how it was back then, a fire blast or whatever. It's something where people rather have that paired with the character it belongs with than having to make 2 separate purchases, which is, I have to buy Scourge and then I got to buy Fracas on the side or something like that. So it's something where I could see it more like that working out better. And it'll just be better for Hasbro because having all that clearance stuff is not a good look for them when they're trying to sell cases of it to Walmart, and Walmart, has price memory and goes, well, I remember last time we got the small price point stuff and it didn't work out well and we had to clearance it. So it just wasn't doing well. It really wasn't. And those small price points really, and I've said this before on the streams, where if something works out for Hasbro, they keep doing it over and over and over until it dies, until it doesn't do well. And we saw, like, they did the decoy armors. It sold terribly in Power of the Primes. They literally discontinued it right away. They did the Siege stuff with the MicroMasters. It got a big push. They did, 10-pack box sets and all kinds of stuff. And I think they kept it on a little longer because with Earthrise, we had the modulator MicroMaster bases, so they kept the MicroMasters around as a complement piece for it. But ultimately, in the end, and again, what was one of my top 5 Transformers of 2020? It was a modulator base. But the modulators didn't sell well, the MicroMasters didn't sell well in Earthrise, and so those two ended up being shelved. And, it's kind of funny, actually. All the stuff that I really like ends up not selling well. Maybe I just have terrible taste. I don't know. But either way, it's just, I've always said it, just because it's something I like doesn't mean it's something that should be made for a business point in sales. And being able to recognize and understand that really is part of the understanding and success when it comes to doing this stuff, is that, if you asked me to make a line of Transformers, it wouldn't include my favorite characters because I recognize what sells well as opposed to what I enjoy, and being able to make that separation. And it's the same thing here where, I like the MicroMasters, but the general audience just didn't buy them. So it's going to be that we will see something like it in the future, but they're going to be called mini-cons and they're probably going to be pack-ins. And that small price point, well, we'll definitely get the in-time market research, and we're going to find out how well that core class is doing in the future. From my own personal experience, and again, that's me only basing it off of visiting all the multiple Walmarts and Toys R Us's locally here in Montreal, core class does tend to peg warm a little bit, but it's more so the no-name characters. I'm definitely seeing entire pegs of, let's say, Vertebrake or Dracodon or stuff like that. as opposed to, let's say, Megatrons or Rat Traps. But that's my own personal micro example. It doesn't reflect everyone else. So it'd be really more curious. How is it for your area? Are core classes selling very well? Are they emptied on the pegs? Or if you have an empty display of Kingdom, core class is the only thing that's left over. So it really is that small price point is the problem for Hasbro right now. But we'll see what happens. And I hope that answers your question, Stitch Productions. And clearly you like little micro Transformers, and so do I. So hopefully we do see more of them in the future. I love the mini-cons when they were a thing. And considering that the new Transformers cell phone game, the Transformers Heavy Metal, is going to feature mini-cons, it would be a good synergy to have those two, where people are playing the game on the mobile and then they could go to stores and buy those characters that they see in the mobile game. It's just good business. Either way, let me know what you think. Let me know if you've seen core classes. It's not selling well. That'll help us continue this discussion on figuring out how cheap the small price points and how well they're doing in the greater world of Transformers. And if you want to be a patron just like Stitch Productions and ask an awesome question like this, or just join us in the Discord and help support the podcast, let us know we're doing a good job. Again, patreon.com/Protoman. Check the pinned comment or the description below to find the link. And rock out, and we'll talk Transformers, and I'll see you next time.